You can also load multiple different rooms. So it's kind of like a magical space. You might have one room for your cars, one room as a museum gallery, one room as something else. So you're not limited to this one room. You can have many, many different rooms. And those rooms can also be themed. One might be, as I mentioned, a 12-car garage. One might be a corner of Gotham. One might be, you know, David Hughes hairline. Who knows?
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of NFT Pirates. It's been almost 8 months, but I figured I'd come up with a bang, and I bring to you today Tales from the Rizzo. As you know, he's huge in the community, big part of the Vaultaholics, and he is in the Veveverse beta testing program right now. And I figured, you know what, it'd be awesome to, come on and pick his brain about all the Veveverse insights and just learn a little bit more about it before we end up all becoming users. So good to see you, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, bro. As I said before we started, big fan, been a fan since 2021. Just glad to finally be on here and chop it up with you and hopefully give some insight into what we've been working on for the last 6 or so months. So wow. Yeah, boy, let's go.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. It's so crazy because I remember when they first announced the Veveverse, and I was so sad that I wasn't part of the initial round of users, but I'm sure it's been a lot of fun. Like,
Yeah. I will always remember when they showed the demo at Comic-Con in, what was it, October 22? Right. November 22, something like that. And Dan was like, yes, the Vaultaholics will be. And we all had a massive party in the DMs, bro. I was like, let's go. Because, yeah, man, a lot of us been building since the start, in the app with the controls and as great as the app is, it was a breath of fresh air to finally get into the verse and really start building,
Yeah, man. And some of the things that you've created have been outstanding. Like, it's really kind of, what it reminds me of a little bit is like Minecraft and those things, when you're like building things from the ground up and people make these massive, crazy art pictures and things. And you're like, wow, how do you do this from scratch? And it's the same thing with this. Like, I've seen you create things where I'm like, you've scaled things in and out of each other. You've put them in a position that makes them look merged. You create like worlds.
Yeah.
What drove you to do that initially? Is just a love for it?
Bro, I've never done anything like that before. Like my background, I guess, from creative stance is like I was, I've always been, my whole family are artists. My brother's an architect. Other brother works in advertising. My dad's a sculptor. I did DJ'd and produced music for years in my early 20s. And Vivi kind of just came along, and I've always been a massive fan of film. Like, everybody's no secret. Like, I will not shut up about The Dark Knight and Christopher Nolan and Aliens and movies. And when I just remember first got in the app and I bought a few Batmans, like I said again before, it was your video that I see back in the day that was like, oh, Todd McFarlane Batman's like the one. Okay, so I went on a little shopping spree on some season ones. And I remember it was not around the time, obviously this was 2021, but I had the Hans Zimmer soundtrack to The Dark Knight. And I remember just going in the app and going like, screen record, Spotify. Oh, look, I can, because the controls on the app, you could do kind of sweeping movements. And I was like, I've always in my head, like, I'd always love to do a course as a director. But I was just like, as I was getting older, I'm like, I'm too old to do that. So this is my way of just making my own little film trailers. And it really went from there, from meeting, the other guys like True Tech, Junkie, Falcon, and the other lads, and just everybody just doing stuff. And now we're here with the verse, and yeah, it's mad.
Wow. It's a perfect background though, between the architecture and then your love for like all these different things like Batman, and, so that's really interesting. And it's amazing because I bet you, like you said, this wasn't even something you anticipated would be a hobby or a passion, right? Like, that's
not at all.
Yeah.
And I've got to shout out the community as well, because, I remember showing some in real life friends, like the first few videos, like, guys, look at that, like, nobody they were just like, what is this? But then, you know, people that are into VV and understand what they're looking at, they get it. Do you know what I mean? So if it wasn't for them, you know, and people actually enjoying them, and I think we, you know, this is before the VV collectibles really had utility. Now you have things where you know, buy the set and you get this. Obviously, MCP's just been announced, but back then the only utility was using these in your showroom. So yeah, man, yeah, it's mad. I'm just appreciative that people have supported us and other builders. Now you see other people coming through and really enjoying it, and yeah, that's what we got to do for this thing to continue on the building sense.
Yeah, no kidding, right? And like what kind of drastic changes it from the showroom to now the verse? Like what kind of iterations are we seeing? Like what's new? Like what can you share with us that's not gonna, you know what I mean, spoil the fun, so to speak?
Nah, all good. So like very drastic, because I remember, like my big thing was, you remember when they changed it on the app from showroom 1.0 to 2.0? There was an issue with the controls, and I remember I was just feeding back like, get a lock button, make sure you can lock stuff. And man, that was, you know, that was the only thing I cared about going into the verse. But I was such an idiot, because yeah, that was just minor, you know what I mean, that was completely minor. Now you can, the controls you basically still got the same, but there's like 3 like different dimensions. Everything's so easy to place. You never, if you want to click one thing, you're always clicking the correct thing. You never accidentally clicking the wrong thing. You can lock stuff. You even have like an X, Y, and Z axes, right? So you've literally got coordinates when you go into the Veveverse, like if you want. And I know, like, one of the questions you asked was like, what is it what you see when you first get in? They obviously have a pre-built home for you, similar to the Vault. It kind of looks like a PS5, but myself and most of the builders go in there now, and there's a bit where you, what is it, like object list view? It will show you what's there, and it says VV home. I go hide. So I literally hide the VV home, and then you've just got a whole world to build from. And when I started the Gotham Gothic City thing, it was like the 3rd thing I started since, you know, getting in the Veveverse, and I wanted to see how far you could go before it turns to, you know, before you can't do anymore. And with your avatar, because you can add in, you know, your Ready Player Me avatar, that was like one of the first things we all did. It would take you 10 to 15 minutes to walk from one side to the other before you can't build anymore. So just to give you, a little bit of the scales. And this is, again, obviously this is beta, you know, first iteration. But I was very impressed by, because I won't lie, Chad, I was like, I remember the day it happened, and I was out on the evening, and everybody was in there. They were getting the presentation by Dan, and I was just like in the DMs, like, please tell me it's good news, bro. Please tell me, are we going to be all right? And they went, it's good. It's really good. So I remember getting home at like 6 a.m. because I've been out playing poker, and yeah, I was very impressed. So obviously, you know, I'm kind of speaking about the boring stuff about coordinates, but yeah, I mean, what kind of other stuff can I say? Like, you've got lights, right? Just the introduction of, right, I want to put a spotlight on Batman's face so it lights up half of his face and covers the other. Like, you can make the collectibles look so different. Because now you've just got, you know, again, in the app, you've just got one lighting effect and your skybox, right? So when you go outside of the vault on the app, you've got that blue sky that everybody knows. You've got that on the verse, but there is the ability to change that, you know, add your own skyboxes, bring down like the light if you want it dark. You can change the color, so, you know, you can have it going from red to blue to white to whatever. So the customization options are really vast already.
Wow. Man, I appreciate that, because I've been away for a little bit. So I've been just trying to anticipate what this might look like. And I really didn't think, first of all, that was going to be that big. Like you said, to walk 15 minutes across the space, right? Is
Yeah.
pretty big. And so what does that mean? Does that mean like every user in the future would get a space that big, or is that like shared between everyone, or how does that would work? Like,
So when you open up the Veveverse, you'll get all the spaces that you've made, right? Like literally like thumbnails, just like you would with, you know, if you go into a folder and you've got all your different videos or whatever. You just simply click on whatever space you've called it. Like I've got Gothic City, a Stranger Things space, this space. And then, you know, it just loads up. Now you can invite people. It hasn't been like I've had maybe 5 people in a space at once, or a vault, or a room, or a world. We still don't really know what to call it yet.
yeah.
And then you've got, you know, their avatars will show up on the right, not their avatars, like a profile picture kind of thing. So it's really weird. So Falcon, Mr. Falcon, you probably, you know from X, Twitter, he's invited to all my spaces. So sometimes I'll just be working and then I'll just like hear a noise. I'm just like, oh, Falcon, all right, mate. And he's just there, you know, he'll come flying in. And the good thing as well, because again, I'm going to keep on referencing the app just for the people that aren't in there can kind of get their head around it. But when you're in the app, it's like one height, right? You can look down and you can look up, but you can either have walk mode, so you're seeing your avatar, you know, you can run along, or you can change it to fly or standard. I have it on standard mode where you're not seeing your avatar, it's more of a your point of view. And then, you know, you can fly if you want. So it's not like you have to run like, oh, I need to get all the way over to here. Like I said, it takes 10 minutes. There is like a speed up button. You know, I'm to when I say the 15 minutes, I'm saying if you're your avatar and you just walked, it would take that time. But
damn, I'll be honest, this is a lot more elaborate than I anticipated. Like when I heard about it, I thought it was just going to be like a bigger showroom, but there's so much that's going on. And I could see why it's taking a little bit of time to develop. Like I know a lot of people were critical about some of these timelines, but when you start to understand what's actually being done here, it gives you more understanding to be like, okay, like I get why it's, you know, people need to be a little more patient, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because again, like, so obviously you have in the verse, you know, you've got all your collectibles, right? But I know everybody was asking for, oh, when are we going to get, you know, sofas and shelves? And, you know, everybody that's used the app, you see all the creative people that use their posters as their shelves and stuff like that. But in the verse, and again, this is just iteration 1. I don't know what their plan is going forward, but you have like a content library, right? So you would click on content and it will say VV collectibles, VV comics. So comics in showroom, can confirm they are in there. You can already place your comics in there, but simple shapes. And that's the thing that, you know, myself, Tech and Falcon and all the guys have been most playing around with, because that's how you build your buildings. Now, on first look, they look kind of bland, right? They're just a green square or a green triangle, but they can be manipulated. So, you know, when you scale up a collectible, right, it's just expanding to scale. You can't make Batman's head longer, and you can't do that in the verse, but with the shapes you can. So this way you can that's how you're making all the buildings, you know, you can build your house. Like you really can build anything you want if you've got the time and the patience to do it.
Wow. So this is where I feel like there's almost like another business opening up here, because if I'm a collector with all these crazy, you know, digital collectibles, let's say I didn't have the time, I might give you a ring and be like, hey man, like for the next week, do you mind filling out? I want this to look really cool. I'm going to invite just a few key people over to come check this out. And you know what's amazing is this is just iteration 1, but like I would love it if you like looked at a collectible and then it could show the mint number and like those kind of things too, right? Like there's so many things that are still probably going to continue to be built. That right? Like
exactly. So already they've got a thing. So I just say you were in there, I could invite you and I can give you the option of VV visitor or editor, right? So if you were an editor and like just say the roles were reversed and you were going to build my room, I'd say, right, Chad, I want you to build me a house, and I want these collectibles. So I would place all the collectibles down for you, put some shapes in, and then as soon as you go in, you can just toggle them, change them, you know, edit the colors, the materials, and then you can do it yourself. So it's still, you know, obviously we're in beta, so things need to kind of be worked on a bit, but it's still possible to do collaborative spaces already. Like I've had Mr. Falcon come in, and he's built me a car park in Gotham. Like you don't see it in the video, but yeah, like a multi-story car park and little things. So when I'm like just kind of struggling, I'll hit him up or tech or whatever, and they can just go, bro, just do this, or they'll come and do it. And I remember there was one day where I was working on Arkham on one side, and he's working on that, and I completely forget that he's even in there. And then he'll just go, yo, Tails, can you like come over and just add 5 more cuboids? I'm like, yeah, no worries, bang, bang, bang. And then, you know, he's off doing it. And it didn't slow it down, or, you know, it wasn't like I was building something and then one of my shapes went away. So they've already got that locked down pretty well. Yeah.
Wow. So I find it super interesting too that like you can still be able to interact with people within your own kind of Veveverse, so to speak.
Yep.
And what's nice about that is like right now, you know, on Twitter, that's kind of our main place to interact, it feels like. But it might actually migrate a lot of people to just doing this a lot of times and hanging out in these different kind of cool clubs or within a few friends within their own showroom or Veveverse. Like, is that kind of where you think as well?
100%, bro. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't tested it like, you know, 30 people in a space or anything like that. There's only been 5 of us, right? But you have the option to mute somebody or what have you. But I know that's been VV's vision for a while. It's supposed to be a social app, right? Obviously we had the feed, you know, you've got the social feed, and there is even the option on the app to, you can enter someone's showroom, I think, or look around, but it's never really worked, has it? But you know, in the verse you can add a stream board. So for example, yourself, if you wanted to premiere one of your videos, you could invite your friends round, you know, all sit there with your avatars and go play, and then you could have it, you know, on the stream board. And obviously you can kind of decorate it so it looks like a proper cinema. I know a few guys have been working on like their own cinema rooms and stuff like that. So
wow,
yeah, the possibilities are certainly there, bro.
That's insane. And you know that, I mean, this is a little bit down the way here, but I figured I might as well ask just as well. Is how do you think the Apple Vision Pro and these future like AR, like VR stuff is going to play into this? Like, was that all of us with our headsets, like, you know, watching my YouTube video and me chatting with you on the left and somebody else on the right? Like I know that's still a little bit off, but again, you know, 2-3 years ago, people were like, "Oh, that's 15 years away." Now I'm like, maybe that's a few years away. You know?
Yeah. So I know, you know, I don't want to speak for the Veveverse, right? But it's built on cavernous. Now, I don't know whether you saw this tweet the other day. Shout out to Josh, who believes his handle on Twitter is on X is Collectors Gone Digital. But Cavernous have announced that they will be compatible with Apple Vision Pro from day one, right? And so, you know, back I remember like 2-3 years ago, shout out to OBL, who you also had on. She was really championing VR chat, and we all bought an Oculus around this time. And I remember going, like, they took me into a room that was like a Batman themed room, and bro, my mind was blown. So I know you can use Veveverse already on the Oculus. I actually sold mine, so I haven't got to experience it. But short story long, yes, you know, that stuff is certainly not 15 years away, bro. Like it's going to be pretty soon. And, you know, again, I'm not going to speak for the team. I'm speculating along with you, but it's quite clear that Dan and David have tried to keep a very good relationship with Apple, you know, with the app. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's so cool because only a few years ago, there was so much FUD on my Twitter being like, oh yeah, that's not gonna happen until 2050. Like this is like I wish I can go back and just screenshot,
Bro,
the
get
50
the
plus
receipts.
people. Yeah. They were like, oh yeah, headsets that won't be integrated till 2050. Like literally, minimum 2035, and here we are, 2024, and
Yeah.
we've got 200,000 headsets that are being shipped out, and now you're telling me that this is compatible with Apple. Like, it's just amazing how fast it's evolving, and also how perfectly like Vivi is like placed right now, with this. So I guess they're going to start to increase now, more users potentially. I mean, again, I know you don't know the timeline, but that's the next phase, right? A little more people will get involved, and then a little bit more. So we still don't know when it's going to happen, but let's hope sooner than later, I guess.
Yeah. So I do know I can like there was 30 of us that were added in July of last year, and recently like the rest of the team have been added in. So there are new people in there. And what I found was really bullish was one of the guys who was never a builder in the vault, like on the app. He hit me up and he was like, bro, like come over to my space real quick. I want to ask you some questions. And he started building like mad, and now he's like texting me going, when I go outside, I just notice architecture more. Like I'm looking at buildings and the way stairs are made and stuff like that. And I felt like that when I first started building the app. So for something that's never built before, to have that reaction from just, the first iteration, I think is bullish in itself, because I always thought, is this what we do? Is it really niche? Obviously people want to show off their collectibles in the most creative way and post them on X or socials or whatever. So to hear that from somebody that's never done it before is, really good news, I think. So
No kidding. And for him to get kind of obsessed with it, having not that experience and all that is like you said, really bullish, right?
yeah.
So this is where I'm like really interested, because like now you're going to have collectibles that are going to drop, and people might not be just as interested in price action. They might be like, oh, I think this is going to look really good in my showroom, despite this having 10,000 mints, or despite this not being as popular, as an example, because this is going to go well with my Marvel room, or this is going to go well with something else.
Exactly, bro. Yeah.
Like, do you think that's really going to shake things up?
I do. I have no idea which, what it will do value wise. I don't want to obviously ever speak on that, but I know the cars look fire, and stuff like, a lot of people have been saying, well, what do the golden moments look like? Like anything that's kind of metal or silver, it looks great, because another great thing is that the light box, sorry, not the light box, the skybox. Sorry, I don't know why that jogged my memory. Skybox is, if you've got a metallic collectible, just say you got Doom, right? The Doom Mighty, even that looks incredible, and you get reflections from your skybox. So when you got really close to something, if you've got like a really I've got a lot of lightning and dark clouds because I love Gotham kind of stuff. If you got really close to say Dragon Girl, you can see the lightning reflecting, and when you move around it all changes. So yeah, things like that. But I don't want to speak specifically on certain collectibles, but
Yeah, but I got you're saying, like, there's some things that just look really great, like that you wouldn't maybe have anticipated, because like they're usually just locked in your vault, and then you blow them up in this room, and you're like, wow, like
exactly. And going back to the lighting thing, like, yeah, man, you can just make the collectibles look so good. You'll just get a simple spotlight.
Yeah.
Example, like Todd, I've just put, as you can see, it's just above his, his left shoulder, our right shoulder, but just lighting up the side of his face. And yeah, if you went up close to the kit car, you would see the reflection of like the skybox, which you can just about see in the background, with the buildings and stuff like that. So yeah, man, yeah.
So cool, bro. Like, yeah. And just so creative too. That's what I love,
Yeah, so if you think about how the Dick Sprang Joker, one of the first ones dropped on the app, really kind of simple and bland, but they just pop. You can just make them look scary or just highlight them. Yeah, bro. Like I love it.
Yeah.
I proper nerded out when we first got in there, and still am today. You know.
Yeah, no, it's so cool, man. And you did such a good job there. That was just a few pictures. But yeah, like that's what I'm excited for too. And then for people to take all that stuff they created and then, be able to then showcase that on social media and like just like what you did back in the day with a lot of your vaults, like now it's going to be way more elaborate. You're going to have so many people creating cool things, right? It's going to be really interesting.
When that, that non-disclosure agreement is lifted for everybody, X and Twitter or whatever we want to call it these days, it's just like you say, it's going to be flooded, bro. It's going to be absolutely flooded. Like everybody, even if you've never built before, people will just go, oh, let me put this collectible and put a light behind it. And they'll just go, look how good this looks, like in comparison. Because you've got to remember as well, in the app, everything, the quality is like fully scaled down, right? So it works, so your phone doesn't blow up. And even, people's phones are overheating and stuff like that. When you go into the verse, you have like 4 different settings, which is performance mode. So if you've got an old laptop that maybe not working, you can have that. But then you've got quality, and this is before Unreal Engine, right? So at the moment it's built on Unity. Cavernous also have Unreal Engine, and it's no secret, this is not me spilling the beans. Dan's already said it on his interview with Will, that Unreal Engine is there, but they don't, obviously, what they want to work towards is right, how do I try and explain this kind of in layman terms? So when you go in there now, everything's being rendered at once, right? So I've got a good gaming computer, so I'm able to build a massive thing like Gotham. But what they want, which I believe they're going to be testing very soon, is what you see is what's being rendered. So you could build something massive. Doesn't matter what laptop you've got, or I believe Veveverse is going to be on your phone as well. And I'm sure on the Apple Vision Pro, like that's going to be the top spec tech, right? So yeah, what you see is what's being rendered, and as you turn, it will just render in real time. Wow. So it doesn't take up too much computing power and stuff like that.
Right. It's amazing that they're able to do that almost like an illusion. Like you think that in the computer world, it's all there for you, but it's just, like you said, it's just like little things that have been put in front of you continuously. It's still all there, I guess, in somewhat, but you're only seeing so much at a time.
Yeah, I guess it's like, I'm not, I've never been a tech wizard. Like,
same here. Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's like a video game, right? Just so you play like God of War or Grand Theft Auto. Right. When you enter the world, it's not the whole world is like rendered and running. It's when you get to it, and it's just, yeah. I mean, I don't know the technical terms, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And you know what's amazing about this? It's like, you used to flex by showing people like your bank account number. Now you're like, hey, do you want to see like my Veveverse? Do you want to see my vault? Here, I'll showcase all these incredible digital assets, doing all these different positions. We can walk around, we can hang out, we can like watch a movie in here. Like it's just such a massive shift in technology. Like my daughter is 5 months, and I'm like, wow, you're growing up in the era of like Metaverse and Apple Vision Pro. Like it's ridiculous, right?
It's mad. And even some people, and just a random tangent here, but I was on X Space earlier, and somebody was talking about, we were talking about like, I'm nearly 40, I'm 39, right? I'm 40 this year. And somebody was like, wait a minute, you remember when the internet came about? And I was like, yeah, I remember that. I was in my teens. And he was like, I wasn't even alive when the internet. I'm like, wow, bro. So to think about, like you said, kids growing up now, and especially with, teenagers and kids are just always on Fortnite and stuff like that's, it's the next iteration. Sorry, I don't pronounce my things very well.
No, that's good. That's good to know, man. And so here's where I'm interested too. And again, I'm not really going to get into the value, but I'm curious about your thoughts. So right now, right, a lot of things that did really well in the last cycle were like popular items that were like first appearances, like Superman and all that stuff, right? And now with like the Veveverse approaching, like my thinking is that scarcity is going to play a bigger factor into this. And the reason I say that is because like so many people are going to be in the verse and all have similar assets. Like maybe everybody's going to have a Todd, everybody's going to have a Superman, you know, like a Vader, you know, because there's so many mints of those, right? Like our edition numbers. So then my thinking is like some of these things that people like initially wrote off, like really scarce artwork or these one of ones, or like you said, limited cars, like that might now be the play, or might just have more of a use case because it's gonna be new, it's gonna be exciting, people won't see it all the time. I just was curious what you think about that.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess one of the things I've been thinking about, and obviously this hasn't been introduced, you know, they've alluded to it, but is like, oh, you can build a space and charge everybody a gem or whatever to enter, kind of thing. And I was thinking about the people that do have those one of ones, bro. Like they're the only people with them. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And obviously the edition sizes are now getting lower. But yeah, the artwork stuff. See, I really want to just talk about certain collectibles, but then I don't want to for obvious reasons. But yeah, I feel like those things will do really well. But then at the same time, you know, if you want to make not even necessarily scarcity, right? But if everybody's room looks the same, then everybody's room looks the same. If you're really creative with it, or
True.
you can reach out to a builder to go, look, I want you to make me something that you haven't made anybody else. So then that would, in my opinion, bring more value to that person's collection anyway, because they're not just using the home. They've you know, either paid somebody or somebody's done them a favor or whatever to build them something incredible, and then you can charge like a couple of gems or whatever for full-time entry fee or whatever.
Right.
I think that's it'll be really interesting, bro.
So here's another question for you, because like one thing that was really fascinating that you said is like, you know, people that are really good at building or really have a particular niche might be able to do something so complex and interesting that it'll garner a lot of attention from people regardless of how scarce their assets are, right? Or what they hold. So as an example, like if I am a huge Harley Quinn fan, I might have the coolest Harley Quinn place to show off. And that, despite how much it's all worth, maybe the HQ19 is still like 3-4K right now, I think. But like, do you know what I'm trying to say? So like that's an interesting thing to think about, is that instead of just being like everybody else, run of the mill, if you take a specific niche and like really go hard into it, that might be a way to really garner interest. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. That's what, you know, that's what I think anyway. You know,
Yeah.
people can have different opinions, but at the end of the day, it's a collector's app, and collectors want, like you say, scarcity and bespoke things that nobody else has.
Right.
So, you know, if you're yourself or as a builder, or if you reach out to somebody and just go, right, I want you to do this for me. And you could, you know, I don't know how it worked, but maybe some sort of contract where you go, you have to promise that or sign that you're not going to build another one of these for anybody else. And then you've got that, you know, forever.
Right. That's pretty cool in a way, right? This is where there's so much that's going to happen like once this gets integrated, that it's really going to change the entire landscape. And I'm curious too, like with the MCP, I know we're going to discuss it earlier. Like now you have the MCP that's working, and you can pretty much, you know, make a bet with the amount of MCP points that you have. So like, what do you think is that going to do anything in terms of like spec or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, just my speculation, and nothing's confirmed here, but at the moment it's done for drops. Obviously, that you could use those for so much, right? They're so VV might release their own, you know, furniture or whatever, or you know, not IP branded, so VV can kind of run it, and you know, maybe they'll, or even drop showrooms, right? This is my dream, is that right? Tails, True Tech, and Falcon have all built a world. There are 10, you know, there are 10 of each drop in. You have to buy them with MCP points, or bid with MCP points, or you can buy, you know, maybe we build a house or somebody's built a house, or even, you know, like I know David's spoken about getting real architects to build stuff. Maybe they start selling, you know, a drop is a fully not licensed, but you know, a full museum, right? Like a full museum, you get to see it, and then you can buy those with your MCP points, stuff like that. Like, yeah,
Wow.
that's what I want to see anyway. You know.
Right. And I think like people are just looking at MCP points right now in a really linear way that it's only going to be used to bid on drops, but like the utility and the use case for it could be so much more in the future.
100%.
Yeah. And that's where it's like right now, I got to give Vivi credit because I think they're taking the approach that like Elon Musk took with the Tesla truck, where it's like we're taking our time and we're doing things right. It is slow and some of the stuff is expected to happen, but I think they just want to do it well, man.
Yeah, that's it, bro. Like, you know, I think in the crypto world, from what I've learned, and again, I said this to you before the stream, like Vivi and Omi was my first entry into this kind of crypto space, and I know it moves so fast with certain other projects, but then I've seen a lot of these other projects start after Vivi and they're already done. So
yeah,
you know, you do have to be patient in this game. Like, you know, it is a bit of a slow burn, but they just want to get things right. You know, like after when I was in there for a few months, in my head I was like, this is ready for everybody. You know, why are they releasing it? But then really, you know, they just want it to be really, really good, bro, for when everybody, you know, floods in there, because there's no point in releasing a product that maybe gets flack. So they're taking their time with it, and so they should, and it's going to be worth it.
Super wise, man. And I think that's what people have to learn from is like, even in business, I find if you're delayed on something, but then you come and your product is like fantastic, nobody cares because they're like, wow, this person produces like high quality things. So, and they'll even give you more time. But if you're just trying to approach things at speed, at haste, it can actually ruin the company and even blow it up, because then people will be like, oh, well, this is a subpar product. And so like, even though they've been hassled to get this thing out quickly, if it comes out and it's not up to that standard, then like you said, it could jeopardize the value of like, and I think that's where a lot of people, like you said, saw these other companies crash and burn, right? Like, so I think they're wise, man. And I know that, you know, people are kind of really on them sometimes, but I think you just bring up some really good points. I think people should reflect on that.
Yeah, and you know, we've been through quite the storm, haven't we, since 2021. I feel like it is really the core community. You know, that's what's left now, and I think it's really strong. I think people are still, the fact we've got here after everything, and they are releasing. You know, people are still really into it. For the right reasons. Like it's going to be, yeah, bro. I think 2020 this year is just going to be mad.
Yeah. And we had that little Omi pump this morning. I don't know if you saw that. At like some big buy shot the coin up like 20% or something.
Oh really? No, I didn't. Not, I won't lie, my Omi is all in the VV app. I need to have a little look. I haven't looked at Omi for a minute. Bro.
Yeah, that's most people too, man. But what's cool about this is that Vivi has always been really well placed for accessibility, because anybody can come in, download the app, you buy something, and then now with like the Veveverse, I just feel like that's going to be such a like, again, an accessible way for somebody that doesn't have much crypto knowledge to come in, buy something they love, right? Like a Superman or whatever, and then be able to walk around as an avatar and then build things out. Like I feel like it's just going to appeal to the masses compared to a lot of these other things, man. Like I was looking at some other projects and it's like, man, I've got to trade, you know, this ETH, I've got to convert it to their native token. And then if I stake it for 3 months, then I get 4% return. And then if I'm lucky, I get to play. Like, it's just like, man, it's only really appealing to like, you know, pretty much tech people. Like, even for me, it's like, okay, let me sit down and learn this. And I just don't think that is going to appeal to the masses. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's it. And you know, again, I'm not trying to speak for Vivi, but obviously everybody wants mainstream adoption, right? And again, it's just the first iteration of the verse, but the fact that you can go in there, even if you don't own any collectibles, you can still go in there and have fun and build stuff, right? And that doesn't cost you any money. So yeah, I'm really just interested to see what it's going to be like when everybody gets in there, and how things then do change. Because I can only, you know, there's 30 of us in there at the moment, or plus the team, and some of the 30 are long-time builders. Some of them are, you know, big MC, you know, like master collectors who might not use it as much, but everybody that's gone in there and used it has enjoyed it.
Right.
Whether they're in there every day, like some of us, yeah, that's the real test for me anyway. That's what I'm really interested to see, is once the floodgates are open for everyone, to see how it kicks off. So, but if you've ever even enjoyed putting one collectible in the app, I'm telling you, bro, like when I first got in there, this is quite sick. I have admitted this a few times, but I've done 36-hour sessions in the Veveverse. And I know I'm a big, you know, I'm one of the, you know, main builders and stuff like that, but time just goes, bro, because you're just like, right, build this. You're working on, you know, your little, my Wayne Towers, and I got my Todds, and then I'll just look over to the right, saying will catch my eye. I go, oh yeah, I need to fix that lamppost or that bus stop or whatever, and ideas just flood, and yeah, bro, you just go off on one, right?
So cool. But it is like a video game in a sense, just like you see, right? Because people get like, I haven't done that before, but for instance, Minecraft, when it first came out, I used to sit there for, days and build like big structures, like architectural structures, right? And so I would get lost in that. But the fact that now I can integrate my collectibles is a whole different level, bro.
Exactly. And it was we were on a space last night, and I don't know whether you know Tasha. She's a big Star Wars fan, and she's clicking away. And shout out to O'Milly, my boy O'Milly. He was like, Tasha, what are you doing? She was like, playing Sims. He was like, still. She's like, yeah, I'm just currently building a house. And he was like, he started joking and just said, he's like, why don't you go and like hoover up and stuff? He was like, I'm hoovering in my house in the metaverse, well, in Sims. So yeah, people like that are just, it's gonna take over some people's lives.
And what's the use case for like Vivi, like having everybody build in their showrooms now? Are you giving like weekly feedback? Like, do you meet kind of with the team? Here's what we think we could do better. Here's what can be improved, kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we've got, we're in a, in the Discord kind of thing, and we will, there's a feedback part. So we'll, take screenshots, take little videos, just go when this. This could need fixing, or what's kind of happening here. And since we've been in there, I believe there's been like 10 software updates. Wow. So yeah, one of the things I remember when I first got in there is once I got to a certain amount level, and again, I've got a good gaming computer that I bought for the Veveverse, but all of a sudden I was like, when I went to move something, there was a little bit of a delay. We fed back about that. The next update, that was fixed. So now everything is just constantly smooth. Do you know what I mean? And I know I kind of alluded to this earlier, but what I really like, there's just something kind of simple and nerdy, right? But if you wanted to build a pillar, and in the app you've got like the arrows and stuff like that. Again, you've got them, but if you just find a center point, so you've got X, Y, and Z axis, right? You can just make sure that everything is spirit level, because you can just go, right, this needs to be in the center of this. That's X, that's Y, that's the same. Then you just move it up, so you can always make things look perfect, really easy and really quickly. For example, I shared like an old video from 2 years ago, and I said back then it took me 2 hours to scale up 4 Lincoln boards and place them. It takes 2 minutes. And again, this is just the beta of the verse, but what we're doing now, like, for example, Gotham City, right? Still not finished, but I was spent about 2 months before I did that video.
Wow.
You're going to be able to do that, within a few hours is what they want to do, because at the moment it's just like duplicate. They'll be able to go, right, click, right click, duplicate, right, you duplicated your whole building. So things are just really, because they want to make it so user friendly, and not just, you can only build if you're a psycho like myself,
Dude, but that's a very impressive point, because that's the kind of things where I feel like the general public just doesn't know anything about that, right? Like, even for me, I'm like, oh, why isn't this happening faster? And it's like little things like that make complete sense. Like you said, you come in there, you said, you're taking a long time to build these things because the technology hasn't been evolved yet. They're still working on making it better. And then now you're like, okay, we can add all these things together, scale them simultaneously, and like that's just a feature that they're like, oh yeah, that makes more sense. So I just think that's important because there's probably like 100 other things like that we're just not privy to, you know, because we're not in the verse right now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, I'm really appreciative of everybody that really did enjoy the video. But from a kind of selfish point of view, I can't wait till people get in there. I hope some more people get in there before that grouping thing like is in there, so they can all go, oh, now I get how hard it was for him to build that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Shout out to Metaverse Life. He gave me a shout the other day on it, because that is built shape by shape. It's not like I built one building, I can group select. Like, they are adding that really soon.
Wow.
But yeah. But anyways, they want to make it so it's really easy for people.
Yeah.
So I would be one of them people like, back in my day, I had to click one thing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, exactly.
the war stories of the Veveverse, you know.
That's good though. But it's nice to be a pioneer, right? Like, I mean, pretty cool for you to be like, hey, I was at the forefront of pioneering, like, you know, Veveverse technology, and like that's pretty amazing. Like,
Right.
and who knows what else that scales into for you, like metaverse building, right?
Yeah, and again, just on that, super privileged and humbled to be able to, like, you know, whenever I kind of have a little, you know, I have my own entitled moments, like, oh, why haven't they done this? I'm like, bro, you're one of the first 30 people in the world to use this.
Right.
And, you know, so I thank my lucky stars, and I'm very appreciative that I am one of them guys. And yeah, it's good fun, bro. But like you say, it's going to be mad in about 5 years time, or whenever, to look back. Like, I even look back at, so I've built like 6 or 7 worlds that aren't fully finished or whatever, but I go back to my first one every now and then. I'm like, you know, the difference in quality already is just insane, because you're learning every day. It's
no, that's cool, man. And have you had the chance, just out of curiosity, to meet David and Dan yet?
I haven't, bro. I was supposed to go to France recently, but my dad, I've been looking after my dad up in, you know, I moved recently to look after my dad.
Good for you.
And I couldn't make it out. And I did go to Decon in London last, when was it? September 2022. And this is just a weird side story, but where I used to DJ and produce before, I know what it's like going to raves and seeing those DJs and that you know you admire, like, that you've always wanted to speak to. But I've always been one of them guys that, man, they're busy. I don't want to bother them. Do you know what I mean? So I never introduced myself to David and Dan when I was at Decon, and I felt like such an idiot afterwards, because I should have just gone and said hello. But I just didn't want to be that guy, you know. But so no, again, long story short.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked out for you regardless, because now you're one of the first people doing it because of all the so that worked out regardless. But I still haven't met them either. I've only ever met one person in the community that saw me one time at Comic-Con in Toronto. That's been it. And actually, that's a lie. I've met 2 guys recently, Mahalo Joe and Dubes, I think. Yeah, because they're in the area, and that was a really cool interaction. Like, that was probably, but other than that, like, really, like, hardly anyone, man.
Yeah, but you've been on like streams with David, right? And
yeah, I've had 1 or 2 videos with David, but I just, you know, nothing like where I got to pick his brain or just kind of chat with him, you know. Like, it was always been really professional or too serious, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I would also love that, you know, to be in that setting. If you could just, like you say, pick their brains for 10 minutes uninterrupted over a few drinks at a bar, just like, right. This. But yeah,
man.
I'm thinking about going to, well, not thinking, I'm going to New York for Comic-Con this year.
Okay, same, in October, right?
Yes.
I'll see you there, bro.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's not too far from me, because it's only like, it's like about an 8-hour drive or a 2-hour flight from Toronto.
Oh, nice.
For you, it's still what, 5-6 hours, right? You take a plane.
Man, my geography isn't great. Remember when I went to Vegas in 2018, and that was like
at least 10, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. Is New York far from Vegas? I might get my geography
Yeah,
out.
like you're probably, because the good thing is once you cross the Atlantic, it's not too far from there. Like it's pretty much right at the edge, so it should be a shorter flight, which is good. But yeah, man, I'll be excited to meet you guys all in person. You know.
Yeah.
And
That's
bro,
been one of them things that when we first started, just like, you know, people say, "Oh, we're going to be on a yacht with our pinkies out, drinking Dom Perignon." Might not be that, but I hear Comic-Con in New York, especially with the parties that, you know, I've heard about. I need to get involved in that. So yeah, this is the year, man, for sure.
yeah, man, I saw France and I saw just like all the partying and like the camaraderie, and I was just so jealous. I was like, wow, it's really interesting because like just living in this cyberspace, you don't really get a good like feel of like what's actually going on outside of this. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to like actually be able to shake somebody's hand and like get to know them. You know?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what was weird when I did go to Decon in the UK. You might get like, because obviously you're on a stream, right? You're on a stream. A lot of
Yeah.
people know your face, so you have people like Chad, and you'll be like, "Hey, what's your Twitter at?"
True.
Yeah, people like, "I recognize that voice. I've heard you on Spaces," kind of thing. But I know I definitely stood next to somebody that I've been tweeting for months on end, but we didn't say hello because we didn't, you know, just know it was that person. Do you know what I mean? So I think they need
Yeah.
name tags and stuff like. But yeah, I think now, especially, do you know, like X is bringing out video spaces. I don't know how I feel
Yeah.
about that, if I'm honest. I don't know whether I'll be on video all the time, but yeah, but then
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that either. And the processing power of that, man, like holy, like I guess it'll probably just be for the people talking, but like
that's a
that's
good
gonna be
point.
pretty intense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that. Spaces at the moment just canes my battery anyway. So yeah, with
Dude.
video, might need another
Yeah.
new phone.
So bro, are you is there one license that you're like totally looking forward to? Or like that we could
A-
potentially get?
Aliens, bro. I can't believe
Alien.
they did it dirty with the posters, man. I'm just like, come on, like. So like
Mm.
Batman is my favorite IP. That's the reason I really got into VV. But I have so many visions for aliens. I even built one of the first builds in the verse of like I don't mind talking about this. I got the Vader helmet, right? If you put Vader on his side, he's got like the alien kind of dome, and where you can add shapes. I made my own aliens vault like already in the verse, and now I'm just like, I want that Queen Xenomorph, you know, from Aliens, and yeah, that's the one. And I keep on anytime Alex is in Spaces, I'm like, what's going on with Aliens? He's like, we're working on it. Leave me alone. I'm like, all right. But you know, we got the posters, so yeah, that's my hope. What about you? What's your one
Oh,
of these
bro.
big guys or?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's still obviously me dreaming about things like Pokemon, but I think that my number one, I think that's pretty realistic, is Cause.
Oh,
Yeah,
did you see the video the other day?
I did,
Uh,
and that's why I've been like speculating, like, if we get
mm,
Cause, because I have a lot of statues, I'm just obsessed with the art and everything, man. I just think they look so cool. Yeah,
yeah, sick. Have
yeah.
you seen
So,
just randomly that there was a film by Kid Cudi called Intergalactic, and it's very much like the Miles Morales, you know, across the Spider-Verse kind of animation. It's on Netflix. And the
oh
first
wow,
scene is this guy moving into a flat in New York, and he's carrying this massive cause piece. And it's like he's just had all his furniture dropped off. And they're like, "Do you want help with that?" He's like, "No, I got it." And he's just like carrying this life-size cause piece up the stairs. So yeah, I'd like to see
wow,
that too. But, yeah, I don't know too much about the artist, but the pieces, like you say, they look sick. And you know, David had
yeah.
all of them behind him.
I
Really,
know he. It was like funny because I remember when I first got my first Cause statue at the time, I paid like, I don't know, at least 700. And I'm just seeing David's collection, and it's just like 50 of the best. Like pretty much, I don't think he was missing one thing. And I'm just like, man, like this guy's collection. I don't know if you saw that, right? In the video we did for him like two years ago. I don't know if you saw that one. It was like Johnny Dunn was in it and everything.
it's
Um, he showed like he just kind of lifted his camera up, and it was like just thousands of collectibles, and then he's like, oh yeah, after I might show you my warehouses if you're interested of collectibles. And I'm like, is this guy a real person? Like,
It's
so
insane.
crazy,
Like
right?
the stories again. Alex comes and tells us stories in the spaces a lot, but whenever he goes to a con or whatever, David will buy all this stuff, and he'll just go, Alex, can you keep this in your in your garage until I can, because obviously they're over in New Zealand and stuff like that. And then what was it? I feel like I saw a video again. This is years ago, but he had it was like a video of him going around his house, and they're all in these like beautiful see-through cases, and it looked like a museum, basically.
Wow. I didn't see that video, bro.
I'll try and dig it out and find it for you. It's somewhere, but
yeah
man, David's got a, he is the master of master collectors, right? His stuff is mad.
I know. I feel like he as a kid just like dreamed up a way to like store things or something and digitally, because I'm like, just like what he's a living breathing example of somebody that ran out of space in the physical realm.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if that was his main reason for starting BB. Is like, shit, man, my 4 warehouses are filled, so I guess I gotta start digitally.
Funnily enough, because again, I've recently moved back with my dad, and I've been trying to explain it to him. Like, he's 86, right? So he's like, oh, I don't get it. But then I just go, look at all this mess, Dad. Right? With this, you don't have that mess, right? You don't have to like get all these things out of boxes, and he's starting to understand it. And I know that's like one of the first things that digital collectors and NFTs have tried to push. Is like, if I've heard you speak about it, right? With your old Pokemon stuff. You have it all, so you have to look after it so well that you can't just get it out all the time and show people. So yeah,
man. And it's not liquid. Like, that's the other issue I have, is like, you got to go meet up with somebody. You got to like, make sure that they think it's a good deal. And then sometimes they're like, oh, sorry, like I see a little scratch, I'm not going to buy it. And then then you're looking on eBay, and you have to develop a reputation to sell. There's so much to it. So like, this is so fast, right? Like, easily liquidate something, buy anything you want, change around your collection. And then on top of that, it's, these are assets. Like, this is now a part of your like worth in a sense. These are things that could scale, that, are kind of a hedge against inflation. Like, that's the way I see a lot of these important digital assets,
Yeah, for sure, man. It's still like, I wonder if we'll kind of take it for granted. Nobody knows what the future holds, right? But I always try and like, because I didn't know about the collecting space before I found Vivi. I did a little bit of homework since, but whenever I hear people talking about MC1s, right, like, but the original, the actual physical comic, like, if it could be that, you've got the first digital version of this thing, and physical was just wiped out altogether in 20-30 years. I'm not saying it will, I have no idea, but if it was, you're going to look back and go, wow, I was really there at the start of that. So
dude, that's a great point, because that's where my head goes. And the reason is the relevancy. Is like, with the mainstream kind of VV or like metaverse stuff that's going to happen eventually, right? And technology being more immersive, and we're living in this digital world, there's going to be less and less relevance for these physical items that are like collecting dust. Because like, if you want to hang out with somebody, you're probably going to go in the metaverse, because it's going to be almost just as real as actually being in person, right? Hey, you want to hang out, me and you, and then we could show things in the actual that realm, right? I could show you MC1, and we could both look at it and all that stuff. As I can't, what am I gonna do? Fly my MC1 out to England?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's already in plastic. Do you see what I mean? So it's coming, man.
Yeah. I already noticed myself, and I'm not saying it's necessarily healthy. Like, we go back to the Ready Player One thing, right? In Ready Player One, there's that whole thing like, oh, we've when they take over the Oasis, I can't remember the main 2 characters' names, but they're like, we have 1 day a week where we shut it off so we can have in real life stuff. I find myself now, when I'll go and see friends and stuff, but like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I wonder what's going on Spaces. I will come back and log on and just go and chat to yourself, or Millie on the other side of the world, and we're just chopping it up like proper friends. And then once, like you say, once I feel the Apple Vision Pros, obviously not right now, from what I've seen, they're quite bulky, right? But once they're just like Ray-Bans, bro, it's just like, what are you up to? Right, let's meet up. It's
You got it.
It's
It's
just
crazy,
amazing.
right? Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. And that's what I find so funny. I've always said this, but like right now, the computer screen, right, is literally a block. And the only reason I could withstand looking at it 8 hours plus a day is because of like all the visual stuff it has in front of me. But it's so unhealthy. I'm literally tilted. My neck hurts all the time. My friggin' hands hurt. And I'm just like, man, when we can actually walk around, like you even seen that that hexapad or whatever the heck that Disney came out
Yeah.
with, where you can walk. Bro, now you can actually get your exercise in, talk to people, hang out. Like it's going to be so much better for like health as well, I'd say, right? Because physically we're in this really weird place right now. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Millie says, drink your water, guys. Drink your water. Not your Red Bull like I'm doing right now. But I saw the hexagon thing, and again, I just thought, man, Ready Player One, because in that, the guy's got the suit. He's like, he's running around on the spot. But the fact that they're already testing that kind of stuff out is crazy. I didn't think I'd see that for a long time.
Yeah, same here, man. But listen, bro, I really appreciate you, taking the time out of your busy schedule, out of building stuff in the Veveverse, to come share some, insights with all of us today. And it definitely has me a lot more bullish, optimistic and interested in as to what's about to happen here. And again, I'm not pressed on the timeline. I know it's inevitable that we'll be using it soon, but hashtag soon, when is it actually going to happen?
Yeah. No, but thank you so much, bro. As I said before, like, honestly, a big fan. Like, I've watched your content from the start. A lot of YouTubers have come and gone, and I just always felt that you're in it because you just genuinely love it, and you're really good at interviewing and just asking the questions. So, absolute honor to finally be on the show, bro. Thank you so much,
bro. Thank you, man, and it's an honor to have you here because I know we kind of been chatting for a long time, and I always had such a high regard for you. So it's nice to hear those kind words, man. And yeah, we'll have to do this again when it's actually live and we're using it. Then you can walk me through it.
Yes, bro, 100%. And once we're allowed to share stuff, like I'll get something special as an exclusive for you.
Amazing, bro. That's really kind of you, man. Thank you, bro. Nice seeing you, man.
And you, brother. Take care.
Take care, bro.